Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Yashodanandana Vrajajanandana Yashodanandana Vrajajanandana Jamuna Sena Vanasari Jamuna Sena Vanasari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Yashodanandana Vrajajanandana Yashodanandana Vrajajanandana Jamuna Sena Vanasari Jamuna Sena Vanasari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Radhe. Jai Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Radhe. Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jai Gaurakinandi, Jai Vishupad Paramahamsa, Sri Radhagacharya Stotra Satya Sri Srimad His Divine Grace, Sri Boy Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Skandi Biti Founder Charya's Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada Ki, Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki, Samavata Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Jai Nitai Gaur Primanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Sarakaya Chaksurandiritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jita Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Vivishakam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Siti Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kipa Sindhu Vyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam namaskritya Naram chaiva narotamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Tato jayamudidaya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Preshabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, whose praise with transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Uttamashloka Charitam Jakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasyayanam Maha. The Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Mukam karoti vacharam pangum langayate girim yad kripa tamaham vande Sri Gurum Dinatharam. Yad kripa tamaham vande Sri Gurum Dinatharam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Srimad Bhagavatam class. Continuing Canto number 7, Chapter 14, title Ideal Family Life. And today we're doing text number 18 and 19. So let's begin with 18. Tasmad Brahmana Deveshu Marchadishu Yatharhataha Tais Tai Kamair Yajas Vainam Kshetra Gnam Brahmanam Anu Tasmad Brahmana Deveshu Martyadishu Yatharhataha Taistai Kamair Yajasvainam Kshetragnam Brahmanam Anu Tasmad Brahmana Deveshu Bhartadishu Yatharhatah Taistai Kamair Yajasvainam Kshetragnam Brahmanan Anu Tasmad Brahmana Deveshu Bhartadishu Yatharhatah Tastai Kamair Yajasvainam Chaitagyam Brahmanan Anu
Tasmad Brahmana Deveshu Aistai Kamai Yajasvainam Kshetragyam Brahmanam Tasmad Brahmana Deveshu
Pratyadishu
Tastai Kamai Yajasvainam
Tastai Kamai Yajasvainam
Kshetragyam Brahmanam
Kesamgyam Brahmana Anu Tasmad Brahmana Deveshu Pratyadishu Yatharhatah Taistai Kamaya Yajasvainam Kshetragyam Brahmana Anu
Tasmad Brahmana Deveshu
Tasmad Brahmana Deveshu
Aistai Kamai Yajasvainam Kshetragyam Brahmanam
Tasmat Therefore Brahmana Deveshu through the Brahmanas and the demigods. Martya Adishu through ordinary human beings and other living entities. Yata arhatah according to your ability. Tai with all those. Kamai various aspects of enjoyment, such as sumptuous food, flower garlands, sandalwood paste, etc. Yajasva, you should worship. Enam, this. Yeah. Kshetragnam, Supreme Lord, situated in the hearts of all beings. Brahmanam, the Brahmanas. Anu, after. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sridham Prabhupada Ki. And therefore, my dear king, first offer prasad unto the brahmanas and the demigods, and after sumptuous way you will be able to worship all living entities, or in other words, the supreme living entity within every living entity. Kindly repeat after me. Therefore, my dear king, first offer prasad unto the brahmanas and the demigods, and after sumptuously feeding them, and after sumptuously feeding them, and after sumptuously feeding them, you may distribute prasad to other living entities according to your ability. In this way, you will be able to worship all living entities, or in other words, the supreme living entity within every living entity. Purport. To distribute prasad to all living entities, the process is that we must first offer prasad to the brahmanas and the Vaishnavas, for the demigods are represented by the brahmanas. In this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart, will be worshipped. This is the Vedic system of offering prasad. Whenever there is a ceremony for distribution of prasad, the prasad is offered first to the brahmanas, then to the children and old men, then to the women, and then to animals like dogs and other domestic animals. When it is said that Narayan, the Supreme Being, is situated in everyone's heart, this does not mean that everyone has become Narayan, or that a particular poor man has become Narayan. Such a conclusion is rejected herein. So this is Narada Muni continuing to instruct Yudhishthira Maharaj. Specifically here on the subject matter of prasadam, and how prasadam is meant to be offered. There's a system for offering food. We were discussing yesterday and the day before also how the quality of that food must be of a certain, it should be as pure food as possible. Ideally, food that is grown by our own devotees, and that's very rare. defined these days. But it should be offered to brahmanas and to Vaishnavas, and then it should be distributed to other living entities. Prasadam is a very important part of our devotional practice. It's something we can do every day because every day we have to eat. So this is, of course, especially the duty, the responsibility of householders. That householders are the ones who are responsible to prepare prasadam. And two things are important. Actually, the next verse I'm including in today's class because the next verse is speaking about the Shraddha ceremony. Prasadam is important every day, and on special days like Shraddha ceremony, prasadam is also very important. So one of the points being made here is that no ceremony should be performed without distribution of prasadam. It's just like I think we have that practice in Indonesia, that after the class there's distribution of prasadam, isn't it? Otherwise people won't come to Bhagavatam class.
Yes.
Where is the prasadam? Yeah. That's a very good practice, and food that is offered with love and devotion actually is very something very attractive and a nice way to bring people to Krishna consciousness, as we all know. And in the early days, when Srila Prabhupada himself was preparing food, naturally, because it was prepared by Srila Prabhupada, it was very, very special, very pure, and Prabhupada in this way actually introduced this process, which is very very powerful process. Interesting point Prabhupada is mentioning here is that when we offer to brahmanas, automatically we offer to demigods. So we don't have to offer separately to demigods. This point is made here. And Prabhupada also interestingly makes the point here how to offer prasadam. There's a system to offer prasadam. When there's a ceremony for distribution of prasadam, first, who should get prasadam first? The brahmanas should get prasadam first. Mentioned here. The brahmanas, then the children, because children, they cannot wait. They cannot sit, and so they, but they get after the brahmanas. Then old men, then women, and then to animals like dogs and other domestic animals. So there's a Vedic culture. There are systems how to do things. Yeah. So we'll go directly to the next verse here, which is text number 19. Kuryad apara pakshiyam masi prosta pade dvija sadham pitror yatha vittam tad bandhunam savitavan. Yes. A Brahmana who is sufficiently rich must offer oblations to the forefathers during the dark moon fortnight and the latter part of the month of Bhadra. Similarly, he should offer oblations to the relatives of the forefathers during the Mahalaya ceremonies in the month of Ashwina. And then 3 texts are there specifically regarding Shraddha ceremony. I'll just read the translation. That is from text 20 to 23. One should perform the Shraddha ceremony in the Makara Sankranti, the day when the sun begins to move north. So when does the sun begin to move north? Now the sun began to move south. Yeah, in the month of January, usually 15th of January. It's a big celebration here in India. Or in the Karkata Sankranti, the day when the sun begins to move south. Oh, okay, that was just recently actually. One should also perform this ceremony on the Mesha Sankranti day or the Tula Sankranti day in the yoga named Vyatipata. On that day in which 3 lunar tithis are conjoined, during an eclipse of either the moon or the sun, on the 12th lunar day, and in the Shravan Nakshatra. One should perform this ceremony on the Akshaya Tritiya day, on the 9th lunar day of the bright fortnight of the month of Kartik, on the 4 Astakas in the winter season and cool season, on the 7th lunar day of the bright fortnight of the month of Magha, during the conjunction of Magha Nakshatra, and on the days when the moon is completely full or not quite completely full, when these days are conjoined with the nakshatras from which the names of certain months are derived. One should also perform the Shraddha ceremony on the 12th lunar day, when it is in conjunction with any of the nakshatras named Anuradha, Shravana, Uttara Falguni, Uttara Shraddha, or Uttara Bhadrapada. Again, one should perform this ceremony when the 11th lunar day is in conjunction with either Uttara Falguni, Uttara Sadha, or Uttara Bhadrapada. Finally, one should perform this ceremony on days conjoined with one's own birth star, Janma Nakshatra, or with Sravana Nakshatra. Quite detailed. So that means you have to consult a Brahmana if you want to know which day to perform Shraddha ceremony. So Srila Prabhupada gives the following purport to these 3 verses, verses 20 to 23. The word ayana means path or going. The 6 months when the sun moves toward the north are called Uttarayana, Uttarayana, or the northern path. And the 6 months when it moves south are called Dakshinayana, Uttarayana, Dakshinayana, or the southern path. These are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 8:24-25. The first day when the sun begins to move north and enter the zodiacal sign of Capricorn is called Makara Sankranti. And the first day when the sun begins to move south and enter the sign of Cancer is called Karkata Sankranti. On these 2 days of the year, one should perform the Shraddha ceremony. Our devotees follow this in Indonesia?
Not really. Not really.
Okay, yeah. Well, most of because these are details that Brahmanas will study or will know. If one is Brahmanas are meant to study. That's not all the Brahmanas necessarily, but those who especially perform different jagyas, sacrifice, they will follow this. And then Prabhupada continues here in the purport. Vishuva or Vishuva Sankranti means Mesha Sankranti, or the day on which the sun enters the sign Aries. Tula Sankranti is a day on which the sun enters the sign Libra. Both of these days occur only once within a year. The word yoga refers to a certain relationship between the sun and moon as they move in the sky. There are 27 different degrees of yoga, of which the 17th is called Vyatipata. On the day when this occurs, one should perform the Shraddha ceremony. A tithi, or lunar day, consists of the distance between the longitude of the sun and that of the moon. Sometimes the tithi is less than 24 hours. When it starts after sunrise on a certain day and ends before the sunrise of the following day, the previous tithi and the following tithi both touch the 24-hour day between the sunrises. This is called Triyaha Sparsha, or a day touched by some portion of 3 tithis. Subject matter of tithi. Did anyone ever study that? Tithi. Every day is a different, they call it tithi. And it's a quite involved subject matter, which some Brahmanas specialize in, need to specialize. And just last paragraph here. Srila Jiva Goswami has given quotations from many shastras stating that the Shraddha ceremony of oblations to the forefathers should not be performed on Ekadasi Tithi. So that's important. That's simple to remember. On Ekadasi Tithi, one should not perform Shraddha ceremony. When the Tithi of the death anniversary falls on the Ekadasi day, the Shraddha ceremony should be held not on Ekadasi, but on the next day. So that's also easy enough to remember. Or Dwadasi. And the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, it is said, Ye kurvanti mahipala Shraddham Shaikadasi dine Trayas te narakam yanti data bhukta cha teraka. If one performs the Shraddha ceremony of oblations to the forefathers on the Ekadasi Tithi, then the performer, the forefathers, for whom the Shraddha is observed, and the Purohit, or the family priest, who encourages the ceremony, all go to hell. So we should know when to perform different activities. Sometimes devotees, they ask the question whether Vaishnavas have to perform Shraddha, isn't it? And Bhagavatam, this particular section, it clearly indicates that yes, we also perform, and I think maybe more information will be there in the verses to come.
But cremation can be performed during Ekadasi.
Cremation can be performed on Ekadasi? You're asking?
Yeah.
I've not studied, so I cannot say. One has to, especially, consult with those who have studied these details. It's like this verse is going very much in details when Shraddha ceremony should be performed. So there are many days on which Shraddha ceremony can be performed, but one particular day, the day of Ekadasi, it cannot be performed. That's why Brahmanas have a very important role to play to study these sections of the Vedas where certain activities are prescribed on certain days, certain parts of the year, for reasons that we may not always know or or understand. But there are many subtle laws of nature that are unknown to most people, and but they are known especially to those who study more in detail. And Narada Muni will be explaining how Shraddha ceremony, I think that's directly in a verse also. We should only offer vegetarian food. We should not offer meat, obviously. Well, it's obvious to us, but not to other people. So these are the two most important activities to be performed or to take into consideration when Shraddha ceremony is performed. One is that food should be offered to the Lord, and that food that is offered to the Lord should be offered to the deceased person, isn't it? And also, the second most important aspect of a Shraddha ceremony is that one should perform Harinam Kirtan. So the Kirtan, chanting of the holy name, is one of two most important activities during Shraddha ceremony. And that's probably coming up in the next few verses. So anyone have comments on this? Or? Brahmacharis and sannyasi?
But then is the Shraddha ceremony, because the mostly Shraddha ceremony.
question whether Shraddha ceremony is performed for brahmacharis or sannyasis. Well, normally, normally sannyasis are put in samadhi, and I I don't believe Shraddha ceremonies perform sannyasis. And I've not read on that. One would have to find out from those who perform those rituals. Whether a brahmachari can offer or perform the Shraddha ceremony. Is there any reason why he could not?
They said that somebody performed the 17th generation.
Okay. Yeah, there is that injunction in the Shastra that those who are family members of devotees, both before and after, so they are liberated souls. Still, the ceremony of Shraddha is performed. They are liberated because they are connected with someone who has become a devotee, and and here the injunction is that the Shraddha ceremonies should also be performed. So it's an interesting subject matter that we don't hear about so often. Actually, I've not heard any seminar on Shraddha ceremony. Would be would be interesting to have, because it is discussed. It is discussed here by Narada Muni. It's also discussed at the end of the purport. Prabhupada is quoting Srila Jiva Goswami. There's quite a bit of information given by our Goswamis on the subject matter. So I've not studied this aspect, so I cannot comment very much on this. Okay, we can read a few more sections here. Text number 24. Taete shreyasa kala nirnam shreyo vivardhanah kuryat sarvat manai teshu shreyo mukham tad ayushaha. All of these seasonal times are considered extremely auspicious for humanity. At such times, one should perform all auspicious activities, for by such activities a human being attains success in his short duration of life. Purport. This is purport to text 24. When one comes to the human form of life through natural evolution, one must then take the responsibility for further progress. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 9:25, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. One who worships the demigods can be promoted to their planets. Yanti Madhyajino Pimam. And if one practices devotional service to the Lord, he goes back home, back to Godhead. In the human form of life, therefore, one is meant to act auspiciously in order to return home, back to Godhead. Devotional service, however, does not depend on material conditions. Ahaituki apratihata. Of course, for those who are engaged in fruitive activities on the material platform, the times and seasons mentioned above are extremely congenial. So, so this point is important, of course, that the practice of bhakti or devotional service, when such practice is performed purely, transcends these material conditions. Means the practice of devotional service is not dependent on any, as Prabhupada states, material condition. Of course, we know that to practice pure devotional service is not so easy. So therefore, even as devotees, we follow as much as possible these different injunctions that are there. Even, for example, on Srila Prabhupada, he would not travel on Thursday, or would not travel on Thursday afternoons, or make any important decisions. So, I mean, Prabhupada is a pure devotee. One may say, well, wow, he doesn't have to follow all these things, but he was still following these things. I mean, as devotees, we also follow Ekadasi, isn't it? One may say, well, because on Ekadasi we fast from grains, but we offer grains to the Lord, isn't it? So one may say, well, it's prasadam. Why can't we take it's prasadam? So there are these guidelines are there. So Prabhupada makes the point here. Especially those who are engaged in fruitive activities on the material platform, these times and seasons mentioned are extremely congenial, are more important to follow. Yeah. Okay. Anything else on this? So we'll close here for now. Jai Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.